the reason that God is loving you so that you can introduce Him to your world. Pakisabi naman sa katabi mo, inaayos tayo ng Diyos.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Pastor Tani Planas.
Hi, good morning everyone. I hope all of you are doing well. And so here we are again. It's another Sunday. Nagpapasalamat ako sa Panginoon for even making this possible. Alam nyo, every day is a gift. Alam nyo, it's a gift of having the opportunity of seeing God at work in our midst. And yes, sa kabila ng lahat, gumagalaw ang Diyos. Sa kabila ng lahat, God is moving in hearts, in families. There's a lot of loss. There's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of pain that surrounds us. Kaya lang, nasabi ko minsan, kung gumagalaw ang paghihirap, gumagalaw at merong mga ganitong mga uncomfortable na mga sitwasyon sa paligid natin, alang-alamang hindi gumagalaw ang Diyos. Tayo nga na mga imperfect beings, kahit na ganito tayo, namimili tayo ng minamahal, namimili tayo ng mga bagay na the things that make us feel bad, things that make us feel good, we put value on these things. Tayo nga na ganito tayo, flawed, imperfect, we are moved to do something. Si Lord pa kaya, who says that He is love, no? God is moving, no? And I pray that our spiritual eyes will be opened. I pray that somehow we will be able to see this beauty that is ensuing all around us. These are difficult times. These are times when, alam nyo, we find ourselves always anxious, afraid. And yung topic po natin today, no, it's something that actually every one of us is experiencing. Before we go on to the topic, I'd like to just greet every one of you, those of you from Cubao, Quezon City, NCR, the Philippines, some of you watching us from abroad, sa Hong Kong, Japan, and wherever you may find yourself to be today, I know that you are in the care and in the love of God. I want to talk about fear today, no? Because it's something that all of us know, that minsan yung fear nga nagiging problema natin that all of us are feeling, all of us are experiencing. I'd like to say God is faithful, and I don't have to live afraid. You don't have to. The situations really they warrant fear. But we don't have to live afraid. We can be afraid, but we don't have to live that life. We can be fearful, but we don't need to be slaves to fear. Alam nyo, we may feel apprehension, anxiety, but we do not need to be engulfed, overwhelmed by all this. The Word of God speaks to us clearly. And right now, kaya nga tayo nagtitipon ng ganito para may sense of connection. No, those of you that are alone, that may be watching this alone, I want you to know, kasama mo si Lord dyan. He's in your house. He's right there where you are. And the fear in your heart, He feels that. Does He understand it? Yes, He does. Is He sensitive and is He tender enough to calm those fears? Yes. But we're going to have to work with Him. No? We're going to have to work with Him on this. God is faithful. I don't have to be afraid. Alam nyo, itong Very Well Mind, this is a website, it's a group of people na they are concerned with mental health. There has been this concern all around us, na especially by yung mga mental health professionals, na talagang marami nagsasuffer ngayon. Kaya lang, Hindi lang mga nagsasabi. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about fear. Let's talk about how we can manage this. Let's talk about how we can get beyond it and live lives, no? Ngayon na may COVID-19 sa paligid natin, and all this suffering, it's not just about COVID-19, it's what it does to people. We all have our horror stories, but today let's look at what God says about this. What is available to us? There might be things that we do not see that are so true, hindi lang natin napagtutunan ng pansin to be able to help us through these very, very difficult times. Ang very well mind, this is a website, no? And it's put together by a group of people na yung concerned sila sa mental health ng tao. Ang sabi nila, this is what they said, that fear and anxiety, no? Fear and anxiety, pareho daw yung symptoms niyan. Okay, kaya lang hindi sila interchangeable. Let's look at the definitions. No? Ang sabi, fear is an emotional response to a known or definite threat. No? Yan daw ang fear. Ano ba yung fear? Yung fear ay yung kunyari ang bahay mo nasusunog, natatakot ka sa apoy, dahil natatakot ka sa apoy, you move away from it. This is fear. Yung fear kapag may lumalapit sa iyo na madilim, nag-iisa ka, tapos may lumalapit sa iyo na may panaksak, na may na feeling mo sasaktan ka. Yan fear yan. Alam niyo, fear is not just an emotion, it's actually built into us. It is needed for survival. Nilagay ni Lord yung ganyang klaseng fear. No, kunyari, bigla na lang na sa tabi mo may sumabog, natakot ka, and it moves you to move away from that area. Yan, built-in yan. Para tayo nagsasurvive, no? Pero there's another kind of fear, and they call it anxiety. Ang anxiety daw po, here's the definition: a diffuse, unpleasant, vague sense of apprehension. It's often a response to an imprecise or unknown threat, such as the uneasiness you might feel walking down a dark street alone. Yung kunyari, mag-isa ka, pero wala ka namang nakikitang threat. Mag-isa ka na madilim lang, hindi mo nakikita yung sa malayo. Ang tawag dyan, anxiety. Sa panahon ng COVID-19, yung kapitbahay mo, nagkaroon ng COVID, no? At ikaw naman, ang mga pumapasok sa isip mo, baka mahawa tayo. Baka mamatay ako. Ano ang gagawin ko? Paano yung mga anak ko? Ang tawag dyan, anxiety. There's so much unknowns. We have no control about our surroundings. We don't know if we will have a job. We don't know if we will have something to eat. Alam nyo, in a few days. We don't know if basta all these things, may potential danger, may potential disaster na very personal sa atin. Kaya nga itong phase ng pandemic na to, nang tumaas yung mga bilang ng mga cases, and suddenly, alam mo, COVID-19 started to get closer and closer to us. Dati, it was a friend of a friend. Now, it's our friends. Yesterday, alam mo, tinawagan ako ng isang kaibigan ko. Actually, ako yung tumawag kasi nag-message siya sa akin. Sabi niya, I lost somebody very dear today. Tapos yung crying face. No? Tinawagan ko yung friend ko. I said, who died? And then, she explained to me na ganito, na there was this person na through the na ka-message niya that they eventually became close. She's a very nice person. And alam niyo na naiiyak siya. This ngayon hindi lang 'yun magulang natin. Ngayon, alam mo, some of you, you have lost parents, you have lost siblings, some of you have lost friends. COVID-19 is suddenly really becoming very personal. Some of you here listening may have suffered COVID-19. Alam mo, and are right now are in the midst of it. I want, ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to know there is a way through this. There is an antidote to fear. We do not need to live afraid na parang di ka na makagalaw. Alam nyo, when we are afraid, we do not make the right decisions. When we are afraid, we find ourselves doing crazy things that normally we would not do. Kaya nga sabi, itong fear and anxiety, kaya halos pareho daw to kasi pareho yung symptoms, yung physiological symptoms, yung tumataas ang high heart rate, merong heightened sense of excitability, and all that, no, it causes us stress. But today, for our purposes, no, we will probably not be talking about fear as the fear that protects us from harm, but we'll be talking about anxiety, something that we live day after day. I was having this conversation with a friend. Sabi niya sa akin, do you remember the time years ago when you called me up and you said, that your day is like a roller coaster? No, that sa umaga, meron kang baby dedication. Sa umaga, may kasal ka. Tapos mamaya-maya sa hapon, meron kang libing. Yung emotions mo, pag ganyan, sabi ko, yeah, I remember those days. Sabi niya, right now, it's like that, no? Sabi ko, yeah, it's very difficult. Sabi niya, she was happy about yung kaibigan namin na gumaling sa COVID, nag-critical. She was so happy about that, na discharged daw the other day. And then suddenly, alam mo, in the afternoon, you have a friend, another friend who's close to you, and they die. You realize they're gone and all this. I said, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is our world today. And our emotions go up and down every day. We watch the news and it goes up and down every day. This is our world. Ito ang ating mundo ngayon. But let's backtrack a little. Do you know that our world operates on fear? Do you know that our world operates on fear? It uses fear. For example, this is the reason that that clothes, rubber shoes, all these accessories, signature items, you know why they sell? It sells because of fear. It sells because you are afraid to miss out. You are afraid na hindi ka kasali. You are afraid that people may look down on you. You are afraid that people may look less on you. That's why all these fashion stuff, they sell. No? They sell. Because of fear. I was thinking nga a while ago, remember when Uber first came out? Diba? Yung merong mga naho-hold up sa taxi, merong mga and all this, no, yung mga crimes related to riding the cabs, no, suddenly Uber comes out, no, you can pay with your credit card. Uber comes out and you can track the path. You can even see where your loved one is at the moment, no. All this, no, it's, you know why? Kahit mas mahal, Uber is more expensive than a taxi cab, but why do we buy it? It's because of fear. Why did it get big? It's because of fear. Everything, alam nyo, marketing today, advertising, it is all running this way because of fear. Stocks, no, stocks. Why do we buy stocks? Kasi we are afraid that we may make less money. We want to take advantage of something that will make money for us, no? Why are we stressed whenever our stocks are going down? Because we have a fear, the fear of financial ruin. Lahat ng ito, no? People are exercising today, no? It's not for health. It's because they want to live longer and they're afraid to die. All these things. If you took away fear from the equation of our world today, there are many industries that will not exist. That will not exist. You have your yung bang for example, no, there was a time when I was in a call, yesterday, and we were zooming, and suddenly isang kasama namin, no, nawala na drain yung kanyang yung kanyang cellphone. Tapos pag balik niya, sabi niya, ba't na-drain yung cellphone mo agad? Siguro yung cellphone mo, yung refrigerator, no? Yung mga dati, yung mga may antenna pa o nakabag and all that. There was a time when the cell phones became smaller and smaller, the battery life became longer and longer. So even in public, if you have a big cell phone, they want to bring it out. And people bought that. I remember I bought one, no, and this was more 15 years ago. I bought one at 70,000 pesos. Could you imagine that? No? And all because people, when they brought it out, they wanted to show a small cell phone, a small, shiny cell phone. And why does this sell? It's because of fear. It's not really for the calling. It's so that people will look at you and there's this wow factor. Why? Because you are afraid of becoming a nobody. You are afraid of people looking down at you. If you took away fear from our and there's you have more examples that you can think about today. Our world operates in fear, and what does that do to us? It gives us stress when there should not be stress. It gives us look at the news. Why does the news sell? If you took away fear, would people take pleasure in the news? Tingnan nyo, bakit? Let's see what's going on in the world today. But silently, you actually say, let's see what's wrong going in the world today. You hear bad news, look at what we say. Wow! Diba? But when you hear good news, look at your reaction. My teacher in journalism in high school said that bad news sells. There is this certain pleasure, this love-hate relationship that we have with fear. If you took away fear, the news would not sell. And what does that do? Alam mo, it makes us live fearful. If it happened to them, it may happen to us. Yung mga napatay sa ganon, yung mga na-hold up sa ganon, yung mga ganito, ganyan. Some of you watch the news and look at us, no? Look at us. Uy, maganda yung food pantry. Di ba? Maganda yung food pantry. Tapos yung mind mo will start wondering, pero abusado ang tao eh. Pero ang tao, tapos, hahadlangan ka lang ng gobyerno. Maganda yung food pantry. Gusto ko sana gawin. Kaya lang, baka makulong ako kasi, komunista daw ako. And all this, no? We see how horrible people are, and that's why we don't do what we do. This is our world. We are fear-driven. In our life, the equation is fear. Fear entertains us. No, fear somehow is a part of our life that you don't realize you're already filled with anxiety. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't need to live afraid. You don't need, alam mo, if we weren't afraid, we probably wouldn't be stressed out about things that we are thinking about. No, we will look at it. We will not escape from it, but it doesn't stress us out. Alam nyo itong fear. You know how fear looks like? No, look at what's going on, today. Look at how you look at people. We think about the Philippines and the Filipino and we shake our heads. Sometimes we get impassioned. Yan, kasi ang kukulit, mga pasaway. But you know what that is? That's fear. That's fear talking. No? That's the fear the worst of the Filipino is there. And the reason you do not do something good today is because wala naman mangyayari dyan kasi ang tao ganito. That's fear talking. Some of us do not even bother to find new jobs. We don't know how to dream anymore. Why? Because we are afraid, we are anxious. That's the fear talking. Some of us, gumigising tayo sa umaga, pagod na tayo. And all is, we are asking, when will this end? Sa Christianity. Look at Christianity today. You listen to the messages of pastors. You look at the verses that are being... Ay, nakita ko to isang araw, yung mga verses na pinapadala. Ito daw ang sabi ni Lord. Ito daw ang sabi ng Diyos, no? That there's going to be a breakthrough. There's going to be... it's going to become better, no? Ladies and gentlemen, you know what that is? That's fear. That's fear talking. Why? Because there's actually, alam nyo, freedom from fear is not, yung freedom from fear, it is not a state of having good luck, okay? Some good luck or good fortune or gamitin na natin to, blessing ni Lord, nanalagay ka sa magandang kalagayan, kaya wala na akong fear. Bakit? Kasi tinulungan ako ng Diyos. In short, kaya wala akong fear, nangyari yung gusto ko Things got better Pero do you realize today that there is a state, merong isang kalagayan ng tao na pwedeng pangit yung nangyayari sa kanya, pero hindi siya natatakot. Pwedeng pangit yung nangyayari sa kanya, let me correct that. Natatakot siya pero hindi siya namumuhay ayon sa takot. That there is a state na yung bang it's difficult, my life is difficult, but I don't live afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm scared, but I'm not afraid. I feel scared, but I'm not afraid. Where you rise, David standing in front of Goliath, there was apprehension there. There was anxiety there. There were, he probably was worried, wanted to run, but his feet kept moving forward. Why? Paano kung hindi niya alam kung na mananalo siya? Pero alam lang niya na kahit matalo siya, things are going to be okay. Yun yung kumbaga, yung fear, nandyan sa harap mo, and the worst thing that could ever happen to you, happened to you, and it's okay with you. Why? Because God knows what He's doing. Yun yung na-demolish yung fear factor. Ito yung victory over fear. It's not about not being afraid. It's about, alam nyo yung overcoming it. Overcoming that fear so that you can say like Jesus, not my will, but yours be done. Look at Jesus. When he was praying in the Garden of, we talked about this some weeks ago, when he was praying in the Garden of Gethsemane, sabi niya, Father, if this cup could pass from me, if this could happen, if we can achieve what we want to achieve and there can be any other way, can we just do that? And this is Jesus, no, Jesus finally came to a place when he said, not my will, but thine be done. He was saying, I don't need things to be better. I'm happy already. Why? Because my happiness is not in the good thing that will happen. My happiness is that my Father's will be done. When we hand over our life, our future to the Lord, and we say, you can take care of this, You know best. You know what that does? That lifts us over the fear that even when things don't get better, I'm happy. Why? Because I am in the care of God. We'll talk about this a little later, but we can experience this. That I don't need a perfect life. I don't need a financial breakthrough. I don't. Because God knows what He's doing. I don't need, alam nyo, some of you are saying, kailan ba matatapos to? Paano kung di matapos? Paano na yung kaligayahan mo? Is this what we hinge our happiness on? That we're so afraid of suffering. That because there is suffering, I cannot be happy. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not victory from fear. That is endorsing fear. Because there is a state in the care of God. Kasi we're gonna look at scripture today. I wanna call today, alam nyo, a good friend of mine. Kasi something terrible happened to him. Something difficult happened to his family. At yung fear niya, nangyari sa kanya. Yung akala niyang bagay na wawasak sa buhay niya, nangyari sa kanya eh. And when he got there, when that tragedy came to his family, he actually had a different experience. No? On the line today is Kuya Bong. No? And I'm gonna request si Kuya Bong if he can go online. Something happened to him, and I'd like him to be able to tell you his story. Why? To prove our circumstances, though they may cause fear, they do not need to end, alam nyo, in the disaster that we think it is. So, I'd like to welcome si Kuya Bong. Some of you know him already. He's a good friend of mine, and God is doing a wonderful thing in his life. I'm so happy, alam mo, to see his family today. Kanina while fixing up this whole video thing, yung si Ina, yung tech niya. I'm just so happy, no, to see them working together today. So, Bong, good morning. Can you just tell the people today, let me just share to them your experiences and how this all turned out. Go ahead, pare.
That kept me sane, no? Kept me afloat, no? My head above the water. You see, dad ko, very bata pa si dad ko, he was already devout, in his faith, very strong in his faith. And tinuruan niya kami mag-grocery, nung una, 15 minutes lang yung grocery niya, naging 30 minutes. Then mamaya isang oras na yung grocery niya. So, I began to hate, saying the rosary with him. And then I stopped, I stopped listening. I guess when I grew up, nagkatrabaho ko, nagkapamilya ko, I drifted away from the Lord. But my dad never stopped. My dad never stopped na magtanim ba. He just kept on planting. And fast forward to 2019, something happened in my life. And it was yung pagtatanim niyang yun that kept me above my head above water, that carried me through, through the trials that I had to go through 19 and 2020. Now, okay na, okay na yung, the things were going, hindi pa solved, no, but at least it was going in the right direction. A month ago, about the third week of March, my dad was nagkaroon siya ng COVID. He got this from yung parish priest nila. No? I've been warning my dad because of what's happening in here, in current situation. I've been warning him not to go na, just online mass and that. But matigas ang ulo, he kept on going, kept on hearing mass every morning. Kasi sabi niya, yun lang pinuhugutan niya ng lakas. So eventually, we found out he contracted COVID through the parish priest rin, who had COVID at that time. So my dad battled with COVID for about 3 weeks, and on Easter Sunday, he passed on. No? It was really difficult for us because, especially for me, kasi like I said, he was the one who was keeping me sane. So at first, it was really parang, sabi nga ni Danny was saying about the fears, no? Wow, my God, the fear of losing my dad, the fear of not knowing what was going to happen, the fear of, pain, obviously, that he was going to go through, the fear of, there was just so many things that we were so afraid of, kami and mga kapatid ko. Not least of all, we were also afraid of what this was going to mean, because 3 weeks, 4 weeks in the hospital would amount to a huge sum, diba? So we were all afraid of that. No, we were afraid of what was going to happen. And then about a week nung nasa hospital na siya, ito na, when people started to find out my dad was sick and he was in the hospital na, there was just an outpouring of love and support from people, his friends, people who knew him. I would get messages on Facebook from complete strangers telling me how much my dad meant to them, how my dad touched their lives. Some have been friends with him for when he was still like working for Father Patrick Peyton's Family Rosary Crusade as a missionary. Pinapakita nila sa akin pictures of yung scapular nila. Yung iba buhol-buhol na sa leg, hindi na matanggal. And Dad raw gave that to them decades ago. And then yun, unti-unting lumabas, no, pati sa Facebook, magbibigay silang testimonial nila na how Dad was like a dad to them. It was that outpouring of love, support, prayers that showed me na parang I did not have to doubt. I did not have to doubt God. I did not have to fear. There was nothing to fear. The next day, parang it was just an instantaneous change. From living a world of fear, what was going to happen to us, what was going to happen to my dad. The next day, parang it was a switch, and I realized na, no, I had nothing to fear. What I was feeling, the fear I felt was more for me, and not for him. I feared what was going to happen to me now that he was gone, but I did not see na he lived his whole life in preparation for this. and that I had nothing to fear. He had nothing to fear. None of us had nothing to fear. Because buong buhay niya was in preparation for this. So, alam mo, with that in mind, when I woke up the next day, I said, I say my prayers, I ask God for forgiveness for the sins I've committed. I asked God for forgiveness for the times that I doubted Him, for the times that I did not trust the Lord, that He would take care of everything. Di ba, we study scriptures in the Bible that tell us that we've been created, He formed us in His image, He redeemed us, He called us. But sometimes, parang we think that's going to happen after we die, na parang He'll call us. Here, it was tangible. It was tangible na parang sinasabi sa akin ni Lord that time, no, you don't have to fear anything. My dad was there in the hospital by himself, all alone. And someone was telling me, you do not have to fear anything. You do not have to worry about anything. I am there with him. Lahat nito nasa plano. So you do not have to worry about anything. And when he eventually passed, no, on Easter Sunday pa, no, which by the way, that was his wish pala. A year ago, someone told me, a friend of his, there was a bishop who died on Easter Sunday. And then sabi ng dad ko sa kanya, I wish ganun rin ako na I die on Easter Sunday. And true enough, that was given to him. God allowed him to die on Easter Sunday. So, when he passed on Easter Sunday, wala, alam mo, I wasn't sad. I was crying because I was going to miss him. But I wasn't sad at all. I was happy nga eh. This was the fulfillment of his lifelong dream, I guess. He lived his life, the whole life in preparation for that. A few days, siguro about a week, he kept on saying na, he wanted to get well, he wanted to see us pa. But the night before he passed, he told the nurse. The nurse told us afterwards, oh, iya, ano mo na, ayusin mo na yung gamit ko. Because uwi na ako bukas. So, parang, alam mo yun, he wanted to live pa a few days before he passed, but on the night before he passed, he knew na. And yun lang sabi niya dun sa nurse, uuwi na ako. And yun parang for me, God was calling him by name to come home to him. And yun yung parang ano yung difference, no? A week before that, we were all afraid. He was sick on the bed. He was all alone. And then, after ma-realize ko that there was nothing to fear, he was still there in the bed. He was still sick in the bed. He was about to pass. And yet that fear was gone. My fear of losing him, my fear of the unknown for him, that was all gone. It was replaced by a sense of peace. Sobra. It was pervading. It was really just all encompassing yung peace sa akin na, okay, dad mo, akong bahala sa kanya. You have nothing to worry about. And yun parang up to the very last, my dad was still teaching me something. And I guess that's it. That this whole the past 3 weeks has taught me, it's real, it's real that God is there. We only just have to open our eyes. There wasn't anything different from a month to about a few days. Wala, it was all the same. He was sick, he was dying and everything. But the last few days of his life, it changed him. And all I had to do was open my eyes to God's promise, to God's will. And that was it. It changed. Everything changed. So, maybe that's my prayer for everyone now who's here. My hope for everyone is for us to open our eyes to what He promised us. And when we do that, when we open our eyes to what He promised us, our fear of death, our fear of loss, our fear of pain, whatever it is that we fear, wala eh. Biglang, parang automatically, just like for me, that ganun eh, sobrang, it's like I said, it was instantaneous. It just nawala. Totally nawala. And that's what has carried me through. And I mean, that's my that's what I've gone through past few days, and I have been very thankful for God showing me and that there's nothing to worry about. Nandito ako, parang sabi niya. So thank you for listening, and I hope all is well with you guys. Thank you.
Maraming salamat Kuya Bong for that. Thank you. This is wonderful, no? Na yung pinaka-kinakatakot mo, pwedeng actually mangyari sa'yo. Pero iba yung experience mo. There was a revelation there eh. Si Kuya Bong at the beginning of what was happening, he was still living afraid, no? Gusto niyang sisihin yung pare. He wanted to make them responsible for the illness of their father. They were because they were afraid, no? Bakit hindi lang naman yung loss of the father yung fear nila? They were also worrying about a lot of things. Paano to? Paano yan? They were afraid of financial ruin. They were afraid of losing a loved one. They were afraid of living a life without their father. There was a lot of paano. How do you do that? How do we do this? How are we gonna pay for the bills? And all that. No, when actually it happened, God started to show him that He was there. How did Kuya Bong go through this? Was there something that he did? No? Was there a formula para ganito ang mangyari? Ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to Isaiah 43. Kuya Bong, thank you very much. That was wonderful. It was real, no? I told him this one time, no, when his father died, I think it was the next day, nag-zoom kami. Nung nag-zoom kami, paglabas ng mga picture, sabi ko sa kanya, Bong, tingnan mo itsura natin sa Zoom. Parang ako yung namatayan. Ikaw ang gaan, ang aliwalas ng mukha mo. Ako yung haggard na haggard. Ako yung dami kong inaalalang mga tao. Dami kong gustong tulungan na hindi matulungan. Daming namamatay ito. Nakakasakit ng ganito. Nawawala ng trabaho ito. And I was the one that was looking haggard and he was not. Pero ang tanong ko, paano yan? Listen to this, Listen, I have 3 points for you today. And I pray that you open your heart to this. Let's go to Isaiah 43. No? Let's go back to this powerful verse of ours. Alam nyo, when Pastor Fermanikis chose this for this year's theme, everybody said yes, that's it. No? But I didn't realize yet, we said yes, but we didn't realize how powerful it was. Isaiah 43 says, but now, he said, O Jacob, listen to the Lord who created you. O Israel, the one who formed you says. Ito yung sabi ng Diyos. Sabi niya, do not be afraid, for I have ransomed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. When you go through the deep waters, I will be with you. When you go through the rivers of difficulty, you will not drown. When you walk through the fire of oppression, you will not be burned up. The flames will not consume you. Alam nyo, I was reading in another verse, no? When you reach the dead end, it's not a dead end. Galing, no? Kung ito nakatapusan ko, hindi yan nakatapusan mo. At the moment when the disaster hits, you will be afraid. Emotions will rush into your heart. And at that moment, alam nyo, like we said, sometimes stop. Let God in. Dikit-dikit po ito mga pinag-uusapan natin eh. At the moment that fear rushes into your heart and the darkness is descending upon your soul, stop. Let God in. Stop. Remember Isaiah 43 verse 1. He says this in 43 verse 1. There's this phrase that says, do not be afraid. Why? No? Kailangan ito, yung do not be afraid mo, kailangan may basihan. Kasi ito yung ginagawa natin eh. One, we chant. No, this is when a Christian is afraid, he chants. And what is that? That's endorsing fear. Yung mga, I will not be afraid. I will not be afraid. The point is that you cannot talk yourself into not being afraid. Hindi mo pwedeng kumbinsihin yung sarili mo na hindi ka dapat matakot. Let's go to memorizing verses. No, let's go to memory. Though it is some help, there is no magic there. There is no magic in the words. There is no magic there in memorizing the verses. When you're going through difficult times, you memorize bam, 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 bam. If you do not look into what it is saying, the power, my friends, is not in the chanting of words. Ano, anting-anting? Hindi. The power, my friend, is to actually it comes in the opening of your heart and God revealing the beauty of the moment in spite of the disaster that happened. Sabi niya, Isaiah 43 verse 1, do not be afraid. And here we go. Why? Why should I not be afraid? Don't forget this. This is one of the most powerful verses in the Old Testament because it tells us why we should not be afraid. It says, "For I have ransomed you." In other translations, "For I have redeemed you." Redemption. First thing I want to tell you this morning is our redemption is the only true reason not to live in fear. I don't have to live afraid. I don't need to live afraid. I don't have to live according to this fear system of the world. Why? Because I am ransomed. I am redeemed. Teka muna, hindi ko madikit yung redemption at saka yung ngayon eh. Hindi ko madikit yan. Diba yung redemption, ang ibig sabihin yan, hindi na ako pupunta sa impyerno. No? Pupunta na ako sa langit. Yan, bukas yan eh. Bukas eh. Kaya lang napakaganda nung ginawa ng Panginoon sa atin when Jesus Christ died on the cross. That's not for tomorrow. That's not useful when you die all alone. This is not for heaven alone eh. No. When Jesus Christ died on the cross for all of us, He took our sin so that what? So that we can have a different experience in life, so that finally we can live. And what is living? Living like Him. There's so many threats, but it is not the threat that determines my action. It is the will of my Father that determines my action. If if in COVID, in the time of COVID-19, you are living afraid, ano yung fear? How does fear look like? Na, ay, hindi mo na ako tutulong sa kapitbahay kasi paano kung ibigay ko sa kanya to tapos kami naman ang mawalan? That's fear eh. That's fear. I'm not asking you to be careless. I'm asking you to be careful. But your being careful cannot be based on fear. It has to be based on the will of God. But how do we make decisions according to the will of God if we are dictated by fear? I don't need to live afraid. I don't need to live my life worried every day na yung yung future ko nakadagan sa balikat ko. Do you know what it means to be redeemed? Redemption is not only for heaven, going to heaven alone. Redemption is applicable now. It is to be the benefits of redemption is to be enjoyed right now in your home. Si Kuya Bong, look at him. Because he is redeemed. What does being redeemed mean? It means, listen kailangan nating maintindihan ito. Si Kuya Bong, takot siya. Dahil takot siya, gusto nila na yung responsible sa sakit ng tatay nila, yung tao na nag-cause doon sa sakit na yun. Alam nyo, ganito, they were assigning blame. Yung blaming, fear yan. Yung anong tawag nito, yung anger doon sa tao na nakakos, fear yan. Pero ano nangyari? May ginawa ang Diyos, nakita nila, teka muna, gumagalaw si Lord, ang ganda. Nabayaran yung ospital dahil sa pagmamahal ng maraming tao sa paligid. Nakilala nila ang tatay nila, ang dami palang ginawa ng tatay at daming taninim sa mga tao. Nadinig nila yung comments ng mga kasama doon sa church, sa parish, kung ano ang tatay nila. Nakita nila ang pagmamahal ng tao sa tatay nila. Nakita nila yung ganda. Kaya nung namatay yung tatay ni Kuya Bong doon ng Easter morning, it's celebration eh. Celebration. Why? Because it was a life well lived. Ano nangyari doon sa morning ni Kuya Bong? Naging dancing kasi may ginawa ang Diyos. Did he have anything to do with it? No. May ginawa ba si Kuya Bong? Para ma-experience? No. Yan ang redemption. You have no part in redemption. Yung iba sa atin, galit na galit kayo sa sarili ninyo kasi hindi kayo perfect, kasi ang dami nyong kasalanan, kasi ang dami nating mga kahinaan na bumabagsak tayo. You know what that is? That's the fear of hell. That is not living. That is not loving. Ang loving ito, na maliwanag sa'yo yung kahinaan mo. Maliwanag sa'yo kung gaano ka kabulok, kahina. Pero, ang redemption ito hindi ko kaya bayaran yung kalayaan ko. Wala akong magagawa para sa kalayaan ko. Kailangan ko si Lord. And then God moves. In a moment, alam niyo, sometimes this experience of wanting to be redeemed, wanting freedom in this life, yan yung vulnerability na kailangan para magkaroon ka ng experience. Experiencing the redemption of God. God moved. The mind of Kuya Bong changed. His eyes changed. Ladies and gentlemen, and what did he say? Sabi ni Kuya Bong, you know what he saw? There is nothing to fear. There is nothing to fear. Sabi ni Isaiah, do not be afraid, for I have redeemed you. Our redemption is the only true reason not to live in fear. You are not only redeemed from hell, you are redeemed from yourself. You are redeemed from this world. You are redeemed in the midst of COVID-19. So what does that mean? How does this look like? Namatay pa rin naman yung tatay ni Kuya Bong. Redemption ba? Yes. Namatay pa rin naman Naningil pa rin naman yung ospital Pero ano ba yung redemption? Ang redemption ba, ibig sabihin, hindi na mamamatay yung tatay ni Kuya Bong? Ang ibig ba sabihin nun, yung sasabihin na lang ng ospital, di nyo na kailangan magbayad? Alam mo, that's being saved from your circumstance. That's not redemption. Redemption is this, na kahit na ano pang masama ang mangyari, basta ako, I am in the care of God. Yan ang redemption. Mangyari na ang mangyari. Look at how we pray. Nanganganda, iyak tayo, Lord, make it better. Lord, stop COVID-19. Panginoon, ibalik mo na yung dating kinikita ko. Panginoon, ganito, ganyan. Paano kung hindi mangyari? That's fearful praying. Alam nyo kung ano yung powerful praying, yung prayer ng redeemed. Lord, kahit na lahat ng kinakatakot ko mangyari. Even though things don't get better, even though walang financial breakthrough, Lord, I am in your care. I will continue to be loving. What you give, I will share. What happens to us, we will trust in you. We will continue to love. We will continue to introduce you to our world. Yan ang redemption. Yan ang itsura ng redemption. Na hindi tayo mapipigil doon sa pagpapakilala kay Lord sa mga tao sa pamagitan ng us loving people. Kahit na ano pa. Magpo-food pantry kami kahit na ano pang sabihin ng gobyerno. Kahit na ano pang sabihin ng militar. Magpo-food pantry kami kahit na swapang ang tao. Magpo-food pantry kami. Alam nyo, kahit na ano pa, bakit? Kasi kalooban mo yung magmahal eh. Huwag na natin, baka naman, katulad yan, merong mga, baka sabihin nyo, kahit magkamatay-matay ang mga tao, magpo-food pantry kasi nagsisiksikan. You know what that is? That's fear. That's fear talking. Let's take the proper precautions. Lahat, everything that will protect us, the social distancing, everything, you follow. But not because of fear. Do social distancing to keep other people safe. Do social distancing. Why? Because you care about not only the people around you, about the families na uuwian nila. That's not living in fear. That's loving. In the end, ang pwede lang mag-judge whether you live fearfully or not is you and God. You and God. But I'm telling you, you don't need to live afraid because our redemption is the only true reason not to live in fear. Redeemed tayo. Yung care ng buhay natin, kinabukasan natin, na kay Lord na. Sabi ni Isaiah, do not be afraid for I have ransomed you. Redemption is applicable today. You don't need to live in fear. Yung susunod na sentence doon, yung Isaiah 43:1, tingnan nyo. Ang sabi, diba? Do not be afraid for I have redeemed you. Yung susunod, I have called you by name. You are mine. I have called you by name. You are mine. One of the things na na-realize, balikan natin yung kay Kuya Bong. Ang gandang illustration eh. Point number 2, your freedom depends on on who you have accepted yourself to be. Papasok dyan yung self-image. Saan ba galing yung self-image mo? Sa damit mo? Saan ba galing self-image mo? Sa kotse mo? Saan ba galing self-image mo? Sa trabaho mo? The amount of your money? That's all fear. Pero ang sabi sa Isaiah, thus saith the Lord, ito ang sabi ng Diyos. Sabi ni Kuya Bong, there is nothing to be afraid for because I am in the care of God. Uulitin ko ha. Why don't I don't have to live afraid. Why? Because I know who I am in God. Ang sabi doon, I have created you, I have made you. I am forming you. lovingly, patiently forming you. I have ransomed you. I paid the price. My son, I sent my son to die, and the price of your life was his life. Tapos sabi, you are mine. I call you by name. You are mine. By the way, ang ibig sabihin nung I call you by name, no? Pagka tinawag ka, uy, Joy! Ang daming Joy. 3 yung lumingon. Alam mo ba that God has a name for you? Pag tinawag niya yung pangalan mo, He knows exactly who He's talking about. Ako mahina ako sa pangalan. Nakaka-memorize ako ng muka. Pangalan, hindi. Pero si Lord, alam niya yung muka, alam niya yung pangalan. He knows you by name. He has a name for you. When He calls you, He knows exactly who He is talking about, and that's you. May uniqueness ka sa harap ng Diyos. Pag nakita mo yung value mo, yan ang dahilan kung bakit hindi mo kailangan matakot. Kilala mo ba kung sino ka? Kilala mo ba kung sino ka? Kilala mo ba kung ano ka sa Kanya? Pangatlo, alam mo ba yung halaga mo? Marirealize mo kung ano yan pag kilala mo kung sino siya at makita mo na at binigyan mo ng halaga si Lord at malaman mo kung sino siya at ano ang kaya niya para sa iyo. Your freedom depends on you, who you have accepted yourself to be. Saan nanggagaling opinion mo sa sarili mo sa kaibigan? Saan nanggagaling opinion mo sa sarili mo sa pressure ng paligid? Sino ka? Sino ka? Ang sabi ng Psalm 49 verse 5, why should I fear when evil days come? Alam mo nyo ba, sa kaisipan ang tanong na yon, parang ganito yung eksena eh. Uy! Magtago ka na, may padating na langgam. Tanong mo, bakit ako kailangan magtago pagdating ng langgam? Ganon din yung question na to. Bakit ako matatakot na padating si COVID-19? Bakit ako na matatakot pagdating si poverty? Kilala ko kung sino ako eh. Kahit na mangyari pa yan, hindi naman nababago kung sino ako eh. Yung Christianity, nalulungkot ako. Pag nagkasakit ka, may kasalanan ka. Kaya nagka-COVID yan eh, may ginawang mali eh. Kaya nagkahirap-hirap yan, salbahe yan eh. Ganyan. That's fear. That is fearful religion. That is how the fearful people think. Pero nung sinabi sa Psalm 49, ang kaisipan ng mga tao na yun, ang konteksto ng tanong na to, bakit? Why should I fear when evil days come? I am a masterpiece. I am precious to God. I am valuable. I am cared for. Every detail of my life, He is aware of this. You know when you can only see bad things during our times? Yung katulad niyan, ayan, food pantry kayo. Ganyang kaswapang ang tao. Fear yan eh. Ako, alam niyo na makita ko yung food pantry, yan ang dapat kumalat eh. Sabi ko, yan ang dapat mauso. Kumalat. And I'm glad. Yung gumawa ng mabuti, hindi naman madali eh. Kasi yung pagbibigyan mo, hindi naman din maayos. Pero yung gagawin mo maayos. Ayokong gawin to kasi hindi, that's not loving, that's fear. We do what is right, even though, listen ito yung pinakamaganda Freedom of fear looks like this. I do not need a good outcome to do the right things. I do not need a good outcome to happen, to do the will of God. Why? Because the outcome does not determine obedience. It is what God says. That's what determines obedience. Pag sinabi niyang cared for ako, kahit salbahe ako, cared for ako, tatanggapin ko yun. Sino ka? Your freedom depends on who you have accepted yourself to be. Ang sabi, ang ganda, sabi ni Paul. Paul said to Timothy, in 2 Timothy 1:17, for God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. Ang sabi niya, hindi ka naman binigyan ng fearful spirit eh. Di ka naman binigyan ng spirito na kinakagat mo lahat ng mga fearful sa paligid. Na parang buy-in ka agad. Uy, delikado yung ganun. Alam mo, bili tayo ng ganun. Mahuhuli ka na, bili tayo. Utang tayo dito para makabili. Bali tayo. Ubos ang sweldo sa ganito, sa ganyan. Lately, nakakatawa. Puro add to cart, check out. Diba? Para saan? Para mahuli. Para maano. You don't need the spirit of fear. You don't need to live with the spirit of fear because God did not give you a spirit of fear but of power and love and self-control. Binigay niya yun. Sana tanggapin natin. Tanggapin mo yung binibigay ng Diyos sa atin finally. No. Finally. Redemption, ang redemption kasi diba sabi, be not afraid, do not be afraid for I have redeemed you. Do not be afraid for I have ransomed you. Ladies and gentlemen, ang mga religion natin puro self-help. Gawin mo to para mabago ka. Gawin mo to para mabago ka. Ang point ka ng redemption, wala kang magagawa para umayos ka Ang kailangan mo lang tanggapin Pero itong tanong ko, anong tinanggap mo? Relihiyon? Doktrina? Anong tinanggap mo? Yung iglesia ni Tani? Anong tinanggap mo? Nag-iba ka ng relihiyon? Wala yan sa pag-iiba ng relihiyon. Wala yan sa pag-iiba ng mga religious practices. Wala yan dyan. Ang redemption comes from God alone. And who benefits from redemption? The one who receives that redemption. Is it a concept? I heard this yesterday. You cannot fall in love for a concept. You cannot die for a doctrine. No one will ever do great things in the name of a belief. You can, but you can, but will it last? You know what really does bring freedom and change? If you meet a person, the person of Jesus Christ. A personal encounter with the Redeemer is the beginning of freedom. To wake up one morning and to know, I am in His care. So when the worst thing that you used to fear happens to you, He will remind you. He will be there and show you that He is there. Not by changing the circumstance. Yung tatay ni Kuya Bong is still dead. But you know what changed? Bong did. His eyes were opened and he saw God is doing a beautiful thing. I told Kuya Bong, di ko mabitawan yung death ng daddy mo kasi ang ganda. Ganda ng nakita ko, Bong. Sabi niya, sabi ko sa kanya, people need to hear this. So I invited him today. Why? The worst thing he feared happened, but when it happened, Jesus was there. Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. Tang sabi niya, tinuloy pa niya itong sabi ni Lord, when you pass through the deep waters, if you want to go back there, so para mabasa nyo, Isaiah 43 verse 2, when you go through the deep waters, I will be with you. When COVID-19 enters your village, I will be with you. When you lose your job, I will be with you. When the people that you love die of COVID-19, I'll be right here. When you go through rivers of difficulty, when you go through difficult, rough times, when you almost cannot stand, when your strength is gone and your patience is lost, I'll be right there. You're not going to drown. You are under my care. When you walk through the fire of oppression, pag namatayan ka na at nabaon ka pa sa utang at nawalan ka pa ng trabaho at wala nang matira sa'yo, ako may iwan sa'yo. I'll be right there. And His will, it shall be done. You will see it. You will taste it. Do not be afraid. In a moment of vulnerability, I was talking to Bong, and I said, Bong, many times yung fear, yung anxiety, it's what draws us to God. If fear brings you to God, please go. So that you can experience very personally this Jesus that Paul and everybody else experienced. Not so your life may be better, but so that you can finally be free of this whole dance where when things are good, I'm happy. Freedom looks like this. I don't need things to get better because I'm happy living the will of God, loving people and introducing Jesus to my world. God is faithful. I don't need to live afraid. Hear the voice of the Lord today. God bless you. God bless you wherever you are. I pray right now that this truth, I can talk all I want and I'll never exhaust. I'll never say things, alam nyo, that are adequate. Why? Because being free from fear is not about changing your behavior. It's not about changing your mind. It's not about praying long prayers. It's not about attending a service or attending the right church, saying the right words. Freedom from fear comes from you meeting the one who redeems. You may say you are a Christian, but that really doesn't matter. You may say, I belong to this church. It doesn't matter. You may even say, when I worship, I raise my hands. When I've been attending JOHIA for 30,000 years. Walang connection yun doon sa freedom. Ang freedom nanggagaling doon sa yung nababasa mo sa Bible na mga salita. yung makausap mo, yung mga nagsalita noon. He's here. He's there where you are. Meet Him today. Happy Sunday. Blessed Sunday. You have a liberating day with the Redeemer. God bless you. And to those of you that are going through trouble today, look around because He promises He is with us. Pagpalain po kayo ng Diyos. Bye.
Thank you so much for that wonderful message, Pastor Tani. You know, in times like this, in crisis like this, it comforts and overwhelms my heart to know that I have a faithful God who is faithful to me even though most of the times I'm not. And, you know, it's true that when God sends us to it, He will bring us through it. And all this pain, all the struggles that we are experiencing is a testament that we cannot do it on our own without God sustaining us. So I hope you are also blessed and inspired by the message that we have heard this morning. And to better understand and even share your own takeaways, here are the process questions which you can discuss with your life group members, family, or your friends. So the questions are now flashed on your screens. And we will be sharing this as well on our group page later. So just a few announcements before we end our gathering. For those of you that want to rewatch or share this video to your loved ones and friends, we will be posting the link here on our group page, so stay tuned. We are also looking for volunteers, so if you're interested to join our team, we are in need of content writers, social media handlers, video editors, tech handlers, and musicians. You can tap me or anyone from the team if you want to be part of our ministries. Also, if you consider supporting our church through prayer and giving so that, like you, more people can be blessed, you can give securely through these payment channels. So we have accounts in BPI, Paymaya, GCash, Cebuano Luwilier, Palawan Express, or Villarica via Cash Padala. If you missed out on the details, don't worry because it will be posted on our group page as well, or you could message us if you have any concerns or questions. You may also follow us on our social media accounts so you can be notified on our announcements and our future events. So we have at JOHIA Cubao on Instagram, at JOHIA PH on Twitter, at JOHIA Cubao PH, our official Facebook page, and Jesus Our Hope Cubao on YouTube. And to every one of you that is watching and is not part of a life group yet, we want to encourage you to join one. You know, it's nice to have a group where we can share in confidence our problems, our struggles, or even our victories in life. A place where we can share whatever season we are in right now. And at the same time, we all learn together about God and loving others. So if you're interested, you may scan the QR code on your screens and fill out the form or comment down below, and our team will gladly reach out to you. Finally, I just want to remind everyone that our gatherings happen every Sunday at 10 a.m. So you're all free to invite your family and friends through this group page so they can catch our live gatherings. That's all. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next week, and God bless.